Alimony is not that easy to get in general. When you get out of a divorce, it's not just healing your personal self, it's also healing from the future that you imagined. At a time when you want support, when you hear things like that, it does get a little harder. I feel like almost every happy looking couple is struggling, and most of them would love to leave, but they can't. Obviously, when I got married, for me, it meant a lot of freedom, a lot of fun, which I think it was initially, but then till it wasn't. I do come from a Marwari family. The society that I was raised in, everybody did get married in their early 20s. I have a sneaking suspicion my therapist sort of knew a divorce was going to happen. It was a sudden decision, but it was a very clear decision. Even today, there are things that they know very little about what actually went wrong in a marriage. And that's how I would like to keep it, honestly. After a divorce, a lot of people do turn into players. I remember there was this time initially after my divorce, and my therapist was so worried because I was barely talking to men because I didn't know how to interact with men anymore. I was married for 9 years, right? She was like, Prachi, the only men you're friends with are your gay friends. That's not okay.
So, are you ready to date now? Lots of people know her by SuperWowStyle, a content creator, a YouTuber, somebody who's appeared on MTV Roadies. But today, let's meet the person behind the brand. She has navigated fame, a very messy journey of self discovery, and a public divorce. Let's hear what peace actually looks to her after the noise. I welcome Prachi on my show, Joey Asks.
Hi, Joey.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic and I'm so excited to be here. I've been following your work for a long time and this is really exciting.
Same here. I look forward to doing this with you for the strength, the bravery you have, how you have taken this forward. Let's jump deep dive into it. So, let me ask you one deep end question. Divorce has become so common these days. Where do you think we are failing as a society?
On the contrary, I believe that divorce is actually a sign of a very healthy society. It shows that people are able to walk out without having to worry about things, be it financial independence or worry about what people are going to say. When people have the freedom to choose, that in itself says a lot about how the society is actually progressing. Does that mean I'm encouraging divorce? Absolutely not. I believe that when issues come up in marriages, which will always do, right? No matter how great the marriage is. The first thought should always be to fix it. But yes, eventually, if things don't work out, it's totally fine to walk out. To answer your question a little bit more in detail, where you said that divorces are becoming very common, yes, that is true. Part of it is because obviously women now are more independent, they have a voice. For the first time, I think, in the history of mankind, women are able to buy property, buy assets, they have bank accounts, they have jobs. So it allows them a lot more liberty. That is not to say that women are the only ones filing for divorce. There are times when men also walk out. So again, I think it's about strength and independence and the fact that the society is opening up more.
So, what have you bought recently?
What have I bought recently?
Yes.
Oh, well, I did buy a house for myself recently.
Wow.
That was very important
Congratulations.
for me. Thank you. It has helped me a lot in terms of feeling more stable in my life because the last few years have been quite quite difficult. So this sort of helped me get a little more grounding.
More strength to you.
Thank you.
Why do you think we as a society respect women who are silent and not women who look forward for their peace?
I think a lot of this has to do with conditioning. For generations, women didn't really have much of a say in how their lives are going to unfold. So their only hope was to make whatever is being given to them work, be it marriage or the family that they're going into. And it often came with suffering, obviously. So it had to be told to them that you endure your suffering, that means strength, whatever you could tell them, right, to make things work. I think it's still part of the same conditioning that women are still being told to endure.
Right.
Thankfully, things are changing now. A lot of it is because of social media, I believe, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. Until and unless we take a step for ourselves, it's never going to change.
Absolutely. We all have to do it individually as well as for the society.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me something. Before Super Wow Style was huge, who was Prachi?
I think I was just a confused little girl trying to find her way in this world, just like I think we all were at a certain age. Um, but one thing that I always knew I wanted to do was maybe make a little bit of a difference in this world before I die. There's this quote, I think, by Swami Vivekananda, if I'm not wrong, which says, "As we come into existence in this world, we must all leave a mark behind. Or else, what is the difference between us and the stones and the trees, as they also come into existence, dry and die?"
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing this, not the exact words, but this is a thought that has stuck with me for a long time. And I'm still on that journey. I don't feel like I've made enough impact, but hopefully
I'm
I'll get
sure
there.
you will.
Thank you.
So, what were you chasing in your early 20s? Was it love, success, validation, freedom? What were you actually?
I think a little bit of everything, but mostly love, freedom. And I always knew that the most important baseline, which I still believe is true, is financial independence for any individual, for any human being, right? So that I feel like has to be the baseline for everything that you look for in your life.
Okay. Do you think you got success earlier in life than you grow your emotional maturity?
Okay, I love how that question uses the word success. Like, I mean, I don't feel like I'm there yet.
Okay.
There's still so much I want to do. But if we talk about, like, let's say the fame that happened during my reality TV show or because of YouTube, I think, no, not really, because I was always a little too mature for my own good. I always say this, I don't think I enjoyed my teenage years or my early 20s as much as other people because I was always very serious about life, working very hard, and I think I was a little too grown up, a little too mature
Are you by
to
any
have
chance the
fun.
first child?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, same here. So you it tend to happen with you.
Yeah, you just end up growing up too fast
Yes,
without
yes,
meaning to,
with
I
a lot of
guess.
responsibilities because you're the first one.
I didn't have any specific harsh responsibilities on me as such, but it's also your inborn nature, to be honest. I think I have always been like that, a little boring, I guess.
Okay. All right. So, did fame get you what all you thought you needed?
To some extent, yes. In the sense that as humans, and this is something that doesn't get talked about, right? Um, we look at chasing validation or attention as a very negative thing. I think to a certain extent, it's a very human need. We all want to be noticed, we all want to be appreciated, we all want to be validated. It's only after a certain point that it can actually get a little difficult, a little bit toxic, if I may say so, when that's all you care for. So, as a child, I grew up with very, very low self esteem, extremely low self esteem, and I constantly doubted myself. So I think for me in particular, I needed that. I needed a bit of that validation, and fame got me that, right? Because there were people talking about me. And it helped me come out of my own shell and made me realize that, okay, you know what, maybe I am worth it. Sometimes you do develop your self confidence from what you're getting from the
Correct.
outside world. Having said that, eventually you need to do your own inner healing, where I believe therapy has helped me a lot. So it's a mix of both, but yes, fame
Okay.
did jumpstart the process for me.
Did it grow in your head at any stage?
I like to believe not because internally, the way I'm designed, I'm more, I'm too introspective for my own good. I will sit and analyze my actions, my behavior way too much in detail and try to correct myself and see where I went wrong or where I might be failing. So when you tend to do that to yourself, I believe you're less likely to get things into your head.
Yes.
You're just trying to stay grounded and not fall apart.
So, every girl has a dream before marriage. What did you think about your marriage would look or feel like?
Obviously, when I got married, for me, it meant, I mean, I wanted it to be like sharing my space with my best friend, a lot of freedom, a lot of fun, which I think it was initially, but then till it wasn't. So I think that's what I wanted out of my marriage, really.
Okay. A lot of us go through a lot of pressure in our early 20s, especially. Did you go through that?
Yes. So I do come from a Marwari family, and the society that I was raised in, right? Everybody did get married in their early 20s. So obviously, my parents expected the same for me, and I could feel it. It's not just from my parents, right? It's from everyone else around me. Like I could still sit down and talk to my parents, but then it was all around me. All my friends getting married, all my relatives talking about it. That's all they could talk about when they saw me. Nobody wanted to talk to me about my career or my goals or my dreams, my ambitions, or what I'm doing. Nothing. They just wanted to know when I was getting married. So I think that pressure sort of gets to you after a while. And because I had grown up believing that marriage was the goal, the pressure was immense. Even internally, it was immense.
So that made it even more difficult to go through the marriage?
I wouldn't say that my marriage in itself was difficult. Initially, I think we had a good marriage, but then things didn't work out, and that's when we filed for a divorce last year.
Okay. So, what do you think, or do you think there were early signs that you realized that there's something wrong and you just ignored things?
So recently, I read somewhere, I'm not sure how true this is, but I can definitely validate this from my own perspective and from the perspective of my friends who have gotten divorced and people have spoken to. In almost all divorces, they kind of knew even before the marriage happened. There were signs. And I'm not talking about the general anxiety before marriage, some very big red flags that were ignored. For me, also, now as I look back, since I've had some time to really think this through without the lens of fear, yes, there were signs even from the beginning of where we may not be very compatible, but I did ignore them and I did feel like we could work it out or that it wasn't a very big deal till it stopped being a small deal and it did become a big deal eventually.
So, do you think your marriage was emotionally broken even before it ended legally?
Yes, I think if I really look back, which I have been doing quite a bit as part of my healing process, I think the last 2 or 3 years of my marriage, things had been breaking down quite rapidly. I was in denial because when it happens gradually, right? Because I was married for 9 years. So when it happens so gradually, you kind of start telling yourself maybe it's just a rough patch, it's a bad phase. In some cases, it truly is that. But then after a certain threshold, it's no longer a rough patch. It's a much, much bigger problem.
It is.
But you're so into it. You're already married. And of course, the society makes divorce look like such a bad thing that you keep telling yourself that it's okay and things are going to work out. Or maybe this is just how it is. So, yes, I think emotionally things were breaking down. And then there was this one particular day when we were having a disagreement about something. And I still remember there was this one specific moment where I was like, oh my God, we are very, very different people. We are just two different people who have gone in two very opposite directions in the last 9 years. And we don't look at life or ourselves or things the same way.
So, you were in this marriage for 9 years?
Yes.
Okay. And after 9 years, you got divorced. How difficult was it for you?
Like I said,
I'm sorry,
because
it's a very stupid question. It would be
it's
difficult,
not a
but
stupid question at all. And in fact, I feel like we need to talk more about these things because there's so many people out there, right? Like I was telling you earlier, like if women like us don't talk about these things, how how are other women going to get courage,
true.
right? So we should actually use our platform to talk about these difficult topics. To answer your question, like I mentioned earlier, since the marriage was emotionally breaking down a while ago, since quite some time, and I am the kind of person once I have decided on something, I'm not going to reach a decision like a divorce on a whim. It was a sudden decision, but it was a very clear decision. It was a very logically placed decision. So, while emotionally it was still hard, but because I was so convinced that it was a right step for me, I think healing just happened a lot faster.
What were you grieving the most? The person, the relationship, or the future that you had seen with him?
I think grieving the person, I mean, all of it a little bit, but I think grieving the person and the marriage itself sort of was a very, very brief phase for me because obviously we were together for 9 years. But like I said, when you leave a marriage with such conviction that this is a right step for you, that part fades away very quickly is what I experienced personally. The future that I had imagined and starting from a very, very different place again. In some ways, it felt like I was starting over my life. I think for me, that was a really difficult part. Also, I think this is the first time in my life when I'm moving in my life with very little direction. I've always had a plan, like a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan, a 10 year plan, a 20 year plan. For the first time, I'm kind of going a little bit more with the flow. So that part is also really scary.
Okay.
It's adventurous, also scary. But I think these are the more difficult aspects of it for me.
We women are basically very emotional. In spite of we getting separated, we tend to go back to the person. चलो और एक बार try कर लेते हैं. Did that ever happen to you? Did you fall in that trap?
No, not even a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
was crying even on the day of my divorce when we were at the court. I was crying and I was such a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone there was crying the way I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like being emotional is also a very strong trait
Mm-hmm.
because it helps you work on your feelings. Once you accept your feelings, is only when you can start working on it.
Correct.
So yeah, I think being in touch with your feelings is very
Mm-hmm.
important. So yeah, I moved with very strong convictions. So there was absolutely no looking back for me at all.
What was more harder for you, leaving the relationship or thinking of how to deal with people later?
Um, I think neither. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
more about who am I? Because I was a wife for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And to restart and to find a new identity for myself outside of that relationship. And this is the first time I'm completely on my own. Before this, I was living with my parents and I got married and I moved into my husband's house. So I've never really been by myself. So these were the more difficult, confusing parts for
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, I was a little bit worried about the society in the sense that I talk about mental health and relationships online, and I knew that my audience may not take it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was concerned about that, but then you just find your courage, I guess.
Did your people around ask you to compromise more?
Surprisingly for me, it didn't come from my parents. I had a lot of support for which I'm so grateful. There were one or two mutual friends who were a little bit disappointed, understandably. But I wouldn't call it pressure. It
Mm-hmm.
was just a little bit of concern from their end. That's all.
Okay. What do you think people don't understand that it is hard for a woman also to leave a marriage?
Well, leaving a marriage in itself is one of the hardest things a person can do, be it a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, yes, it's generally much harder for women because um, just because of the way the society has been designed, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was leaving the marriage, I heard people say things about me like, oh, her life is ruined, or, nobody's going to want her anymore, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
At a time when you want support, when you hear things like that, it does get a little harder.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to women who are scared of leaving unhealthy relationships just because of social and financial dependency?
I'll answer this question in two parts. I think financial
Mm-hmm.
dependency is a very practical, logical concern.
Mm-hmm.
If you're financially dependent on your spouse, you need to start looking for ways to be financially more independent, or maybe speak to your parents, your family, at least for
Mm-hmm.
the initial support. Eventually, I think financial independence should still be a very important part of your journey, especially going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So take up a job, do whatever. I also want to mention this: alimony is not that easy to get in general because
Mm-hmm.
most men will contest it. It could go on for years. The case could go on for years and years,
True.
and in a lot of cases, women get a very small amount of money for alimony. This whole 50-50 thing where she'll get half your property, half your earnings,
Mm-hmm.
that hardly ever happens. Hardly ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to be financially independent. That's the first part. For women who do not want to leave the marriage because of the societal pressure, I understand the pressure is very real because I went through that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say just take a leap of faith, go ahead with it. And the people who do not support you are not your people. The people who will support you are your friends. I have made a lot of new friends, especially since my divorce. I have a lot. I mean, my entire social circle has mostly changed. And it's so liberating. It's actually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing to be afraid of.
So, so there's one thing that I really want to understand: toxic relationship versus unhealthy relationship. Why should women not stay in both kind of relationships?
Because you're unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not happy, that's it. That's a good enough reason to leave. Try to work your relationship. I mean, toxic marriages, not so much because that's when things have gotten really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's borderline unhealthy, if it's just starting to get unhealthy because of difference in opinions, things that you feel like you can work out, try to fix it, try to work it out. There's couples counseling, there's therapy, things like that. But eventually, you need to, as a human being, not just a woman, even for men, for every individual, right? Happiness is very important. You cannot live your life being unhappy, thinking that this is a successful life. Success means
Mm-hmm.
being in a happy, healthy life.
So, did you pass all these stages before taking a final call about therapy, about talking to people, healing? did you also cross all this stage before you decided that, okay, this is high time, now I want a divorce?
I did start my therapy long ago. And I think what's very interesting is that I have a sneaking suspicion my therapist sort of knew a divorce was going to happen. She just obviously never told me, she never pushed me into it. But when I did tell her that we are filing for divorce, her reaction told me everything. You know, she was very much prepared that it was going to happen someday or the other. So, therapy, I think, was a very big part of it. Yes. I didn't really talk to anyone about it because while in a marriage, you protect your spouse and you protect your marriage. And I didn't want to take my problems elsewhere. Even my closest friends didn't know anything. Even today, I mean, there are things that they know very little about what actually went wrong in a marriage. And that's how I would like to keep it, honestly. But yes, I did go through an entire process of having that conversation with myself before I decided that day that this is time for us to leave.
People say divorce is an easy way out. Would you agree?
In short term, I think it's the hardest thing. But in long run, yes, it is an easier option because you finally are in a space where you can find yourself and you can pick your life up back again. Um, People who say that divorce is taking the easy way out, honestly, I would want to tell them that staying in an uncomfortable marriage, convincing yourself, lying to yourself that this is going well, that I believe is the easier option. The pain continues throughout your life. You're struggling throughout your life, but I believe that that is actually the easier option, not the divorce.
So, do you also think people would leave marriages easily if they could?
Absolutely. There's so many people in such unhappy marriages. Almost, not all, almost every couple that I know of personally. And since I came out with my own divorce story, people have been opening up more and more to me. I feel like almost every happy looking couple is struggling and most of them would love to leave, but they can't.
Do you think a happy relationship, happy marriage exists?
I think it does. I know some very, very happy couples, and that mostly exists where we have given up the traditional view of marriage and we are working through what works for us. For example, LAT, living apart together. Now, that's a relationship model that's gaining a lot of momentum, right? Where
Correct.
people are living separately, but they are in monogamous relationships and they're very happy because they have their space to just ground themselves, work on themselves, heal themselves when they need to be on their own by themselves, right? Then there are relationships where people need to be together all the time, so you figure out a model that works for you. If you need a lot of space, you need a lot of space. There are couples who do everything together and they're very happy. There are couples who need to have their own hobbies and own things, which I think is generally healthier. So happy marriages exist where you let go of the traditional opinion, traditional view of marriages, and embrace what is true to your personality as an individual and as a couple. And I think those are the marriages which are most likely to last.
Okay. You have spoken so much about your divorce. You have taken it public. Was it empowering or exhausting?
I think it was mostly very empowering because I knew I had to come out with my divorce story because I was getting questions and I knew I couldn't hide it much longer. Um, but when I came out with it, I was a little scared of how my audience would react. Surprisingly, though, I got so much support, so much support. Yes, there were people who did also react negatively. That part could get a little exhausting, but that was very temporary. For most part of it, it was the
Okay.
best thing.
Okay. I have not seen any of your videos on social media where you are literally crying out and trying to show it through social media. But to people who show this on social media, do you think it's real? Because having a camera right then and there and recording it, does it actually look real?
Okay, let me correct you over there. If you actually go through my Instagram profile, there are a few places where I have cried on camera. I'll first talk about my experience and how it happened. So during my divorce and just before the divorce, right, when I knew that things were gonna happen, I started making video diaries where I would just turn on the camera and talk about my feelings and what I was going through, and then I would replay that entire video and listen to myself. Why? I suggest a lot of people to do this now. When I would hear myself talking, I could listen to myself as a third person. And I'm like, what advice would I give to someone who wasn't me going through this? And that helped me a lot to put things in perspective because when thoughts are in our head, we don't see it for what they really are. But when you hear
Correct.
yourself talking, it changes everything. So I had a lot of clips like that where I was obviously crying because those were for myself. When I started making my videos later talking about my divorce, I did use some of those clips. Reason being, a lot of people think it's performing healing. No. I want the world to understand that crying is not a negative emotion. We cannot attach positive or negative, labels to emotions. Emotions are emotions, and once we start embracing all our emotions with empathy, with respect, with love, that's the only way you can actually heal your inner child. Of course, you don't have to be chaotic all the time, and you still need to stay balanced, you still need to work through it. That is where therapy comes in handy. But to call it all as an act for everyone, I think that's a little presumptuous, because everybody has their own reasons. Some people are doing it for views, I'm not denying that. But I think for a lot of people, it can be very healing, or also telling the world that I am finally embracing myself.
Okay. So social media has helped you a lot to perform healing.
I wouldn't say perform healing, though, if I'm being honest. I think when you go through something like this, for me, my divorce decision was very, very fast. It all happened very quickly. I think for a lot of people, when something really major like this happens in their life, the first instinct is to run away from your feelings, because you need to first get a grip on yourself. You can't sit with your feelings immediately always. So for me, that is the part where I was performing for myself, and I think it did show up on my social media. But then eventually, last year, I think the universe just always has a plan. Last year, I actually broke my ankle, and I was homebound for a very long time. I couldn't go out at all. That forced me to sit down with myself, stop going for parties, stop running away from everything, and really feel my emotions. And I remember there were so many times, and I would just break down crying, and for hours and hours, and I would just, you know I was totally lost. But I think that is where a big part of my healing actually happened. Social media did help me, but I think a lot of healing does happen when you just shut yourself from the whole world.
Okay. What is the difference between genuinely being healed versus appearing to be okay online?
Appearing to be okay online, I think, is the easiest thing to do, right? Because you're just on camera for a few minutes, and you can put on your makeup, put on that big smile, and look perfectly okay. And I think most of us are very good at pretending, because almost everyone is wearing a social mask all the time anyway. And camera is a lot easier to handle.
True.
I think real healing is when you realize that you're genuinely at peace. I remember this was way back in February. I found a old photo album of me and my ex partner, and these are some very good pictures from our first date and when we got our dog and everything. And I just saw those pictures, and I was like, we had a life. But that just feels like a movie that I was watching. I don't feel any connect with that life. And I wish him well. I didn't call him, or I didn't say anything to him. But in my head, I could see myself letting go, because I wasn't angry anymore. And I was wishing him well, genuinely. And I don't think much of him anymore. The thoughts
Okay.
do cross my mind. So I think this is what real healing feels like.
So, did you also have the pressure to bounce back quickly after your divorce?
I think there was no pressure externally, but internally, obviously, because it was so overwhelming, I just didn't want to go through it for too long. I wanted to heal as fast as I possibly could, because it was extremely painful. But here's the thing, the more you run away, the harder it gets. The day you actually take a step back and be like, you know what, I'm ready to cry. Because I know that no matter how much I cry, I will not spiral, and I will not fall apart, and I can pick myself up eventually. And I think that is when things really start to get better.
Who do you think are the best people to have around you then?
I think your therapist, provided you are lucky enough to find a good therapist, and at least two or three friends who genuinely, truly understand you. Also, if you can join a divorce support group or find people who are going through something very similar. I've been in a very unfortunate way for my friends and in general. I've been very lucky that way, because a lot of my friends have actually gotten a divorce in the last 6 months. Like I told
Okay.
you, four friends have gotten a divorce in the last 3 months. So when you are around that, you just can talk a lot about things, and that helps you.
Okay. So now when people hear that you are divorced, how do they react?
A lot of people, yes, they don't know how to react, because they want to be polite. and it comes as a shock to them because I'm very vocal about it. I feel like we need to start normalizing it, not in a way to encourage the society, but just to normalize it, right? To take away all the stigma around it. So when people ask me, "Are you single? Are you married?" I'm like, "I'm divorced." So a lot of people are taken aback, but generally, I think people are learning how to deal with it.
What about your friendships? Have you lost about real good ones?
Not the good ones, because good friends stay with you. But yes, after a divorce, a lot of friends don't know how to act around you. Sometimes I think I think they're also worried that now that you're a single woman, you might be, a little bit dangerous to have around their husbands. Girl, I didn't want my husband. I don't think I want yours either. But that's just one part of
Uh-huh.
it. Some people get very uncomfortable because, like I said, it reminds them of what might be going wrong in their own lives.
Okay.
So everybody has their reasons. I have lost a few friends, but the good ones, most of them have actually stayed.
So, tough one, but do you think men also assume or think that you are easily available, or they look you with more respect, or for that matter, they think you are a player?
I love that question. I have seen a lot of different reactions from men. Generally, the more grown up, mature men, especially men who have been through divorce themselves, they actually look at you with more respect because they know what it takes, right? Again, it depends on their own thought processes as well and their own maturity level. But yes, there are people who do assume you to be a player. Now, let's be very honest. After a divorce, a lot of people do turn into players, or a heartbreak of any kind, right? Because that's just the way they're finding themselves, or
Yes.
it helps them get back on their feet, find their confidence. But I just want to tell everyone that's not everybody. Everybody heals differently. Like, I don't think I could ever be that person in my life, and that's just me, right? But yeah, people do assume that you're just like, a player now, sleeping around, having too much fun. There are also people who assume in the same context that you will be easy. So you just need to learn how to draw your boundaries. So I'm very careful about who I let in. I remember there was this time initially after my divorce, and my therapist was so worried because I was barely talking to men because I didn't know how to interact with men anymore. I was married for 9 years, right? So she was like, "Prachi, the only men you're friends with are your gay friends. That's not okay. You need to get back to being friends with the men who you actually at least were friends with
I
earlier,
think
even
that was
if,
your comfort zone. That's what
yeah."
was making you comfortable.
Yeah, those were the only men I was like sure of that they're not gonna judge me. But then as I started opening up, and I met some wonderful people around along the way. I've been very lucky to find some amazing people. I realized that, you know what, there are good people out there and who will not judge me or who will think I'm a player, and things are a lot easier now.
How has divorce changed the way you look at love?
There's a quote which says, "I was a free thinker before I learned how to think." Before the divorce, my idea of love was very fairy tale like, my Prince Charming and happily ever after. I still do believe in love, but it's from a more, I think, practical perspective, where I am me, you are you. And if I find someone tomorrow who has his own life together, just the way I have my life together, that's the only person who I could fall in love with. Instead of me being a savior or you being a savior, I don't look for that anymore.
So, has it also changed you as a person, and also have they left you with some scars?
The scars are definitely there. I think any kind of heartbreak does leave you with scars, but your scars can also be your badge of honor. It shows that you have gone through something and you are you are a much more evolved person now. It doesn't always have to remind you of the wound. It really just depends on how you see your scar. It has changed me as a person. I really don't think I would have been this confident, this independent, this sure of myself. Like today, no matter what happens in my life, no matter what happens, I know I can handle it. Absolutely 100% without doubt.
Okay.
So I love this feeling.
Okay. Who is this Prachi who didn't exist 5 years ago?
I think the Prachi now is a lot more confident, a lot stronger, who has her whole life together, who knows what she wants with a lot more clarity. Even though I don't have a 5 year, 10 year, 20-year plan, I'm so much more clear in my head about who I am as a person. When I'm meeting people, when I am interacting with new people, especially, I have seen that my instincts are a lot sharper and I'm able to follow my instincts, my intuition a lot better. It's guiding me better. So I think in a lot of ways I have evolved, things that I didn't even think was possible. But when you go through something like a divorce and you're starting your life all over again for the first time, I'm being by myself with nothing to fear, right? I have nothing to lose, I feel like, anymore. I'm a lot more brave as well.
So, are you ready to date now?
I think it would be nice to have a companion to share my life with. My life is very fulfilling. It's absolutely fantastic. But then there are times when, for example, there was this time when I was walking down the street and I saw this store with beautiful men's shirts. And I was like, you know what? If I had someone in my life, I would want to take him there and be like, that color looks good on you, but I don't like how it fits on your shoulders. And just for the little joys of life, it would be nice to share that with someone. Yes.
Okay. Also, want to understand, are you completely healed to date now?
See, healing includes a lot of different factors. When you get out of a divorce, it's not just healing your personal self, it's also healing from the future that you imagined, or how you look at relationships, or how you are in a relationship. So, in terms of personal healing or missing my ex and that aspect, I think is completely sorted. I don't think about my ex that often. I can't remember the last time I cried thinking about him. It's been really long. So I think that aspect of my healing is definitely complete. Um, However, there is another aspect which I haven't explored yet, and that is, who am I in a relationship now? Do I carry any baggages? Do I have any specific triggers from what didn't work out in my marriage earlier? Now, psychologically, it's very likely that I will have certain trigger points. But the only way I can understand that is if I'm in a relationship again. So my only hope is that when I'm in a relationship again and if I have certain triggers, I can actually be honest about it, talk through it, go for therapy and figure it out with my partner. So that's where I am in my healing.
So, what kind of guy are you looking at?
I think mostly just someone who's kind, grounded, and who has his own peaceful life, just the way I have my own peaceful life, and we can just bring our worlds together and just be happy and peaceful together. And also, I need a lot of independence. I
Okay.
need a lot of space. So I feel like that would be very, very important for me. But a good guy who knows himself, who has his life figured out, I think that is what I would want.
And do you see yourself getting married again?
I really don't think so because, like I said, companionship is the end goal. I don't see any reason why one needs to make it legal. Having said that, maybe it's just, my freshly divorced status talking. Maybe I will change my mind eventually. I'm not sure.
No, even I believe companionship is very important. Now, to all my women friends, I only give this advice: don't get married, just look for a good companion. And one of my very dear friends, she keeps telling, if ever I don't get married in life, it's because of you.
Any reason why you are particularly.
So now, divorce being such a big thing, today's women want to compromise but don't want to compromise to an extent where they want to lose their independence, which they are right in a way,
Or lose their self?
or lose yourself.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if that is not happening, then I see there's no point. And like you said, you need a partner to be there for the smallest of joy, to share everything. It
Yeah,
could
even the
be
bigger
an ice
things.
cream together, it could be a coffee together. And if you are not available for small joys, I don't see that
Yeah,
leading anywhere.
yeah. Or even the bigger things, right? Like a hospital visit. Like when I
See,
was on
that is
wheelchair for a while.
secondary.
Yeah, but
If we are
eventually,
not able to overcome these small needs or wants,
yeah, then
then
there's
what's
no
the
point.
point?
No point. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, back in the days, it did make sense for people to get married. But times are changing and it doesn't always have to be a given.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you are not available for a quick call, the idea of having a partner is like dead.
I think once in a while it's okay.
Once in a while
Yeah,
is
because we all
perfectly
have
fine.
busy
You can't
lives.
judge
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
man with that. But somebody who tends to this do this often, I think there is no love at all.
Yeah, I think emotional unavailability is a very big factor
It is these
why a
days.
lot of relationships are breaking.
Yes.
I think what we need to understand is that we can't choose between career and love. Things have to be prioritized basis what needs to be attended to first. Now, if your loved one needs you, and it's, let's say it's an emergency, you obviously drop everything to be there with them. But if you have something very important going on at work, like it's a big promotion or a very important meeting, I think it's okay for your loved ones to take a back seat for a few
Correct.
days during that time. So I think that is something that people are not able to always understand or do.
They
We need to
aren't.
prioritize things basis what needs more attention in the
Yes.
moment and
I think,
communicate.
yeah, I believe communication is the key. Most of the marriages, it's only women who is communicating and who loves communicating. And men usually fail women in this.
Yeah, because I think men are mostly raised to be stoic and to be providers, and most men are still focusing on that part of the relationship, and they genuinely feel that they are doing right by their families by earning the money and giving them a comfortable
True.
life. And I think that's a nice thing, but again, if there's no companionship, obviously it's going to get difficult after a while.
True. How do you find peace now?
How do I find peace now? My life has really slowed down and I can't believe how much I love it. Like my mornings are so simple, so easy. I'll sit with my coffee or my matcha with my dog, read my paper, I'll play some music. Mm, and I'll just read a book or meet my friends. Sometimes I'll just go to a cafe alone. Working out, going to the gym is a very big part of my life these days. Sometimes I'll just go take a walk in the park. Very simple little joys of life, and I am I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it because all my life I've been in a rush, trying to achieve things, trying to do things. This is the first time I'm like I've quieted down, and it's beautiful. Everyone
Wow.
should try it.
Yes, even I suggest this to a lot of people I meet
Yeah.
across because I do the same.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
So, also tell me something I want to understand. Why do people always ask women to tolerate more in a relationship?
Uh, Nobody wants the society to fall apart. And let's be honest, if marriages start breaking more and more, things are going to get very chaotic for the society, right? Also, I think it's years, not just years, generations of conditioning, where women sat quietly and they were tolerating everything, and life was convenient back then. Things are
Yes.
becoming a lot more inconvenient now with women speaking up, with feminism on the rise. So obviously they want things to go back to where they were, but just because it was convenient and easy doesn't mean it was right. There were women who were suffering even then. If you look at our mother's generation, right, so many women have chronic illnesses, thyroid, BP, sugar. They're so common, and I think a lot of it is because they are actually deeply very unhappy, and they've been unhappy for a very long time. So it's for the sake of convenience, but that doesn't mean that it was a right decision.
What advice would you give a woman who is stuck in her life? She knows she is wrong, but she is terrified of disappointing her people.
Yeah, at some point you just have to do it. This is where courage becomes very important. You cannot live a free life without courage. If you want to live life on your terms, if you want to be truly genuinely happy, there will be multiple times in your life and you will have to make that brave choice, that difficult decision, and just go with it. Will you disappoint people? Yes, absolutely. But in the long run, if it is a right decision for you, you just gotta do it. You just have to do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Prachi, for incredibly being vulnerable today. You have shown us that divorce is not just the end, but bravery or strength to start up with a new story ahead in life. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having me on your podcast. This was a very interesting conversation, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing more of your podcasts in future as
Yes,
well.
we shall. I like to
Thank
be
you.
on the other side someday with you.
Let's interview you sometime when you're in
We shall.
Bangkok. Thank you.
All right, thanks.